Have you ever been in a situation? Sorry. Have you ever been in a situation where someone offered you just to take drugs, and did you try it?
Of course.
Yeah. What would you say? Were you tempted just to try
drugs
out?
are for thugs.
Yeah.
I certainly haven't done heroin,
Yeah.
and wouldn't. But I had, I grew up with friends that did, and it destroyed their life. So I was very lucky. I didn't go down that path.
So part of the reason to accept this role?
No, it really wasn't. It was. I'm always looking to work back in Australia. I hadn't used my own accent in 8 years, so I was really looking forward to doing that. And so I'm constantly looking for material, and it was just the best that they had to offer at the time. The love story. I'm not really a fan of the conventional kind of love story that can be boring and all. But I am a fan of love and the story of love, but I like it to be disguised in like an interesting backdrop, and so this was a love story that was disguised in an interesting backdrop, and so that's what appealed to me.
Did you base your take on addiction just from these experiences of these friends that you mentioned, or do you do some extra research into?
Both. Luke Davies, the author, had an experience, and so he was always around. But Abby and I met with a gentleman who was and still is an addict. He's been using heroin for 30 years. And we went to a place called the NUAA, which is the Narcotics Users Association of Australia. It is basically a drug club, because it's not a rehabilitation centre whatsoever. It's a place where they provide you with the fresh needles and tourniquets and spoons, and they teach you how to...
Not even methadone?
No. And, you walk in, and on the left is a magazine stand with kind of user magazines, like one's called Junk Mail. They're like weekly, monthly magazines that are all about people's experiences on drugs, and there's like little cartoons of people doing, it's crazy. And so he, I filmed him, and at one point he brought out a big kind of rifle case looking thing and sat it down on the table, and then he opened it up, and inside, it's bizarre, this kind of a prosthetic arm, and it was incredibly lifelike. And we kind of pulled it out and popped it on the table like this, and at the end up here were two tubes that ran out and connected to two blood bags. One was full, one was empty, and the blood ran down and into the arm, and all the veins were fully functional. And so it was an arm that they used to teach young junkies how to inject safely. And find a vein, and so he's looking at the veins. He's like, he's drooling out of his mouth. He's going, look at that one, that's a good one. Look, there's a good one around here, and just wishing that his veins were like that, because all of his veins had collapsed, like in his arms and his legs and his neck. They're all gone. He, in fact, was shooting up through his knuckle, and he was like digging around.
Like Casper does.
Right, and that's where he got it from. So I gave Jeffrey Rush a copy of this documentary I made on him. And so we sat there for an afternoon in drug school, injecting into this arm. Like you actually, pull back and blood goes into the syringe and you inject in. It's bizarre. And so we graduated, knew us, and went on to make a movie. But just, I interviewed him and talked to him about his ups and his downs, and so I got a bit of information out of him too.
I just noticed you have this kind of hole in your sweater. You do this often, and you just poke holes through your sweaters with your fingers, or?
No, I think that's just natural. Natural.
Oh, natural style. What's the backstory to this Old Man River tattoo?
Michelle wrote that on my arm, and so I just tattooed it over her writing, handwriting, printing.
And why would you do that? Do you like the song? Or?
No, it's got nothing to do with the show tune. It's a place we'd visited together, and I don't know, there's something eternal about the phrase. I feel like I'm kind of on Old Man River myself, and I'm paddling down it. But there's many reasons, many kind of meanings.
Yeah. You live in New York now. How do you get to surf these days?
There is actually surf in New York.
Is there?
There is actually on Long Island. But I'm a spoiled surfer being from Australia, so I don't want to go out and swim in that freezing cold water. So I say surfing for Australia.
Yeah. Do you feel a responsibility as an Australian to help the Australian film community go out of their slump or something?
I guess so. I don't know whether I feel like it's a responsibility of mine, but just naturally I want to get back there and work because,
It's been a long time since an Australian movie went crossed over the
it's true.
and
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's true. Still noise kind of thing. It's like doing it a little bit. Yeah, I'd like to. I'm always looking to work back there. I mean, for selfish reasons, I really love just kind of acting in my own accent. So liberating. But yeah, so there's a couple of other things I'm looking at back there.
One thing Australia does export is access. Why do that is? I mean, why is there so much one-way traffic between, well, not that there's likely to be traffic in this direction, but I mean from Australia to Hollywood,
I don't know. I don't really have an explanation for it.
It's obviously not to do with drama schools because you didn't go to one. I mean,
I don't know. I don't know what it is. I really know.
In these years, when you play the roles, it didn't fully identify with. I guess you must have built up a certain level of frustration. I mean, how did you just give vent to this frustration? What did you do to kind of counterbalance this?
Sorry, what?
Like, I think if you play the roles you didn't like, you still play them. So I think you must have become frustrated to some extent. And you have to give vent to this frustration to find an outlet for this.
Yeah, I beat myself in showers.
Now, what did you do?
I don't know. I guess while people weren't taking me too seriously, I wasn't really either. And so I never really sat around panicking, or I never really get that frustrated about anything professional.
Do you feel more self-assured now that, the Oscar nomination, things like that, but from the moment that you started acting, you said you have very little training. That must have been difficult for you at times because you were surrounded by people who have lots of training. Have you reached the point where you started to feel more and more confident in your skills?
I don't know whether I'm feeling confident in my skills, but definitely I'm feeling more and more comfortable with the process and the space that I go to between action and cut. I'm learning to believe more and breathe more, and
as a director, you feel, or a colleague as an actor, who you feel that taught you the most from? Was in his,
I guess from starting with even Shekhar Kapoor, who was like such a guru, and he loved to talk about destiny and chaos, and he was like so poetic in the way he spoke, and I really appreciated him. But then from there, I got a lot from different directors. Like Terry really taught me a lot. I adore Terry doing his films, and obviously Ang. But every director just gives you something different to work with, and I love that. I love the diversity in the people you work with, and the directors. Really it forces you into creating like flexibility.
What do you think about the Academy choices? Because when we met in Venice, we talked about Brokeback Mountain. You told me that you didn't care about the controversial about this movie. And were you surprised when this movie, but also other kind of movies like Syriana and are chosen by Academy?
It was definitely a pleasant surprise. But leading up to it, starting with Venice and Ang receiving the Golden Lion, I think the praise that he got and the film got since then would have made it kind of hard for them not to kind of recognize it. So, on a personal level, I was pleasantly surprised, but I can't say I didn't think the movie was going to get nominated because it was such a good run, and it also made money. You know what I mean? It's made $100 million already. So.
But not only your movie, but also, for example, Paradise Now and Syriana and
Trans-American.
What do you think about it?
I think it's really refreshing and honest, and I think in the last 10 years, a lot of big, frankly, bad movies have been nominated in the Academy Awards, and it's always seemed to me just purely based on what's financially successful.